Boom. Bum 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 bum. Yeah, break it down. What? Yeah. Milo, don't start barking, dude. Don't start barking. Don't start barking, dude. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Just think of the thing that you want to do, and then do exactly the opposite of that. It's as simple as that, Milo. Only you can believe in yourself. Only you can prevent forest fires. Something that is objectively false if you think about it for even a moment. But if a little bear says so, in a funny little costume, then everybody's like, yes, true fact. Only you can prevent forest fires. Absolutely. Anemone, good to see you. Good evening to you, Eric. I am exhausted. I'm tired. I feel like I worked a lot this week. I feel like I worked today. I'm coming home, and I've been working out a lot. I'm very proud of myself for that. I'm very proud of myself. I'm like keeping the course. I'm staying true. I just come home after work and I just do a workout, and I don't feel bad about the quality of it or if it was like the greatest workout there was ever. I just do it. And then the next day I feel like I did a workout, so it's working out, right? So it's working out. The next step is that I've been trying so hard. Like I haven't been doing like a routine. Look at Z, good to see you, bud. I haven't been doing a routine, but I have been like, so I'll just like pay attention to my body and be like, what I feel like I need to work on. And for sure, it's like this right in here, like, and it's been that way for like a week. And I've been researching and I've been finding out, I've been like trying to find out like I like look up the like actual like Latin name, like Ligonimus tetronimus. Like I feel like I'm casting a fucking Harry Potter spell or something. And and they're all just like, yeah, you want to do chin-ups. That's what you want to be doing. And I'm like, I don't have a chin-up bar. And I don't want to go get a chin-up bar. So what else can I do? And they're like, well, you could do this type of push-up, or there's this over here. And so I do those, and then it's just like, nah, I just am not hitting it. And so I like do a little bit more research, and like the internet basically might as well just put their hands on my shoulders and look me in the eyes and been like, my brother in Christ, you need a chin-up bar. So tomorrow I'm gonna go get a chin-up bar. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get a chin-up bar. I'm gonna put it. I got a doorway over here. I can just install it right there. Yeah, the gym. Yeah, shame it's expensive. Nah, I'm not going to the gym. I've always hated the gym. Bread Bunny, good to see you. I notified you. Well, maybe the algorithm is finally like loosening its hands a little bit. Maybe the algorithm is finally going like, just a little bit. Maybe they recognize that wrapping their hands around the throat of their content creators and going, you cannot talk about things that are happening in the world, is a stupid business model. Maybe they figured out that if they continue doing that, another person will come along and be like, oh, come over here, talk about this shit all day long, right? And I kind of thought it was going to go down that way. Because, like, the empire just needs to entrench itself, right? Like, it just needs to get entrenched enough and then make it so that certain subjects are, like, intractable. Like, the Ukraine war, it's intractable now. Like, we're never getting out of that. It's happened, right? You know, we're not, and now we're just sort of letting history decide. And as we all know, Americans, the very last thing that Americans give a shit about is history, right? But Marie, that's a very kind thing of you to say. How kind of you to say. I know I was sad I didn't come on last night either. I was actually rather looking forward to it, but I had to close. Somebody called in sick, and so I had to close. Then I had to come home and take care of Milo. And by the time it was like all coming together, I was just like, it's not going to happen, dude. Like, it's just not going to happen. And then I had to wake up this morning and go to work and blah, blah, blah. So it's just like, wah. I do try to do it, dude. I do try to do Mondays. Eric, want to see a really great breakdown of the allegations of Jordan Peterson? It's a detailed Twitter thread done by a journalist. Yeah, put that in the thing. You know the thing, Eric. You know the thing. Put it in there. Right? Yeah, JP crying how he's being canceled on Joe Rogan. Dude, the right wing, and I gotta tell you, this situation, a little bit more than previously, like Joe Rogan is moving way further to the right, like way further to the right. He's simply not listening to anybody else. Like he straight up is not listening to anybody who's like, Jordan Peterson's a loser. Like, that's not, he's platforming Peterson and just uncritically being like, yeah, Jordan Peterson, come on over, whatever, say whatever you want. Like, the last time he had Peterson on, Peterson was denying the existence of climate change. And to me, that's it, right? Like, that's it. If you're a Peterson fan, or if you're like a Peterson person, well, he stands up and goes, you know, you can't really critique climate change because really when you say climate change, you mean everything. And so it's a silly idea. Anyway, you can't critique and you're just like, okay, go sit in the corner, crazy Uncle Peterson, right? But then when, like, so, and that, to me, that should have been the moment when Rogan went, oh, okay, we're done here. Like, we're done here. I've seen Rogan do that with people. I've seen him be like, oh, you're coming on here and denying the existence of climate change? Bye. Like, that's the end of you. I'm no longer interested in discussing things with you. But here's Peterson again, just totally bullshitting us, right? Like, lying to us as always. And it's the classic lies. It's the lies of omission, right? Bread Bunny says, hey, John, I've missed you. I know I haven't messaged anything in a while because I'm so busy trying to survive capitalism. Yeah, Bread Bunny, I know, dude. I know. What a catastrophe, eh? Like, what a catastrophe this whole thing is. Even for, like, easy, calm jobs. Even for, like, the easiest job in the world. It's getting to be just like, oh, shut up. Like, it's so fucking annoying. But I've been watching every stream at least twice over, and it's been helping me survive. What you do is essential for my health and sanity. Please know that. Thank you, Bread Bunny. What a beautiful comment. That's so nice. That fills my heart with love and joy. That fills my heart with love and joy to know that I have always said, if all I can do is help one person keep on keeping on, then that's good enough. That really is good enough, because, and sometimes it's like, even if that person is me. Marcus, good to see you. Got a notification for the first time. Okay, interesting. Something's changed then. I feel like, what changed? I did do some checkboxes in the back end of YouTube. YouTube did an update, and then I checked some boxes. And I bet you, when it did the update, it also, on the back end, updated the algorithm in some way. I bet you they've taken a look at some of the recent shadow banning and the recent shit that they've done, and they're probably easing it off a little bit. I sort of expected that was going to happen. Like, they literally cannot go full-blown fascist. Like, they literally can't do that. Can you imagine if they tried? Like, what would that look like? And I think one of the things that is happening in the social media, people are, the media system is terrified of TikTok. It's really what it's coming down to, is that TikTok is eating everybody's lunch. And they simply cannot afford to just start alienating content creators, losing content creators, blowing people, because another media apparatus is going to come up and just be like, yeah, come over here, right? So and I mean, there's good reasons why TikTok is winning, because you just need to interact with it for any length of time to be like, oh, TikTok is better. But not necessarily for this. I actually prefer YouTube. Like, the YouTube format for what I'm doing here, I actually rather prefer it. Here we go. Ligand to Z, organizing. How sweet. Yeah, Joe Rogan made the transition from liberal moderate to right wing back in 2016. Well, I mean, like, Rogan's always been like a bro dude, right? And I do think that he still holds views that would be considered liberal by today's right wingers. Like, maybe we should give a shit about the poor, right? But I do think that Rogan himself has been pulled down, and because of people like Peterson, has been pulled down into this grind set, you got to do it yourself sort of mindset, which is very bro dude, right? Like, this is the thing about the whole bro dude attitude, is that it is really just like grind set, pull it up, do it, work harder, no pain, no gain, feel the burn, right? Like, it really is just that kind of dumb bullshit. And so, you know, it makes sense that he would become that kind of a guy, especially after he moves to Texas, for God's sake. Like, Rogan, like, when Rogan's in LA, he's surrounded by, like, artists and actors and writers and, you know, hippy-dippy liberal types. So even though he's like this meathead going around and he still goes hunting and all this, he that's getting a little bit checked because he's got other people around who are not that. And sometimes he does have people on his show who are like that, like Tim Dillon. Every time he has Tim Dillon on, Tim Dillon's just on there being like a left-wing spitting facts kind of guy. And which I'm not saying Tim Dillon's a left-wing guy, but but like, Rogan's just surrounded by Texans now. Like, that's it. Everywhere he goes, there's the Texan. Like, what do you expect? You know? Like, it really is like a case in point and like a big, it really proves what Engels has always said, that human behavior is dictated by material conditions. And Rogan's environment has changed. Right? It changed from being like a liberal, left-wing kind of a place to being like a far-right libertarian fucking utopia, right? Like, and his attitude changed with it. Bread Bunny says, home apartment was collapsing and condemned. I just got back from court getting sued over not paying them rent for it. Oh, luckily you've got a very supportive girlfriend keeping your house or I'd be fucked. Oh my God. Now my days are mostly running around trying to get everything I need to take care of my survival and keeping up with the survival of my impoverished and friends. My mom actually took notice of my journey of coming to understanding myself, my mind, my body, emotions, and trauma, and it inspired her to do the same. I'm seeing actual growth and awareness of her. See, that's something that I think is true, that when you go through something traumatic like what you've experienced, which sounds like trauma to me, other people do see that. And other people, it is inspirational. It inspires other people. I know for myself that, like, there's a young lady who I work with who, going through a breakup, big move, doing all this kind of stuff, and she went through, like, a physical transformation over an extremely short percent of time, like a short period of time. And I was like, is this anorexia I'm seeing? Like, what is this? And she talked to me about it. It was like, no, you know, like, I think getting out of that situation, it released a lot of stress and changed my attitudes about things and changed some stuff that I did. But it happened so quickly that it was really kind of the kickoff point for me to be like, oh, you know, I could do that. Like, I used to be more in shape than I am now. I used to be more physically fit. I used to be working out a lot. I used to be doing a lot more than I currently am, and I could start doing that again and start that up. And so you're telling a story of how you're going through hardship. Well, you see in your own life how it reverberates and sends throughout. And so just because you're going through a hard time doesn't mean you're not also impacting other people in a positive way. And honestly, everybody's going through something like this right now, man. Somebody I'm working with right now is literally going, they want to renovict this, him and his partner. And he's, I don't know how much of the story I should tell, but basically he found out that the reasons they gave for renovicting him are bullshit. And so now he's fighting back. And they have, like, documents and shit. Like, they went and talked to a tenant lawyer, and the tenant lawyer was like, you should just stop paying rent. Like, you should quit. Isn't Texas 50% liberal? Yeah, but it's American liberal, which is like Canadian conservative, right? Like, you can be a liberal in Texas, you're still saying yeehaw. I have to say, the fact that JP is receiving karma for the crap that he's done, I do need to admit that I find it exciting in the meltdown he's going through because of it. Yeah, I just, like, the thing is that he's, from the Machiavellian bullshit sort of perspective, he is doing the right thing. Like, That's something about Peterson that you do have to admire. Oh, are you guys hearing me okay? My mic is falling down. Oh, I forgot about that. Hold on one second, guys. Sorry if this is a noise. Sorry. Hold on. Fixing it up. Sorry about that. Oh my god. Maybe, is that better? I'm a big loud guy, so I think that's what was really doing it. But, okay. Anyway. Peterson has always been good at this. He's always been good at taking bad news or bad situations and like judo throwing it or pivoting it. Yeah, thank you, Danarchist. And sorry about that, guys. And he's always been really good at pivoting into like taking a negative and making it positive. He's always been really good at that. And like when he really, that guy, good to see you. When like people roundly made fun of him for the lobster thing, right? And I mean, like the whole, yeah, anyway, the whole lobster thing, like people really make fun of him for that. Well, he sells lobster merch. Like, so that's him just being like, oh, I'm getting really heavily criticized for this lobster thing, so I'm going to sell a bunch of lobster shirts and like lobster hats and stuff, right? Went from like a 5 sound quality to a 9. Fantastic. Yeah, literally last night the microphone fell over and then I just didn't pick it up and then I forgot. Simple as that. I'm tired, guys. I'm tired. Except for pronouns, John. Sorry, I don't understand the comment, except in relation to Jordan Peterson, so I assume you're right. Like, now Peterson's like a liar. Like, he's a really effective and really interesting character because he is like a great figure to really show how we as a society really seem to respect grifters. That grifting seems to be the number one thing that we're all actually looking for. Like Peterson will say things like, "Yeah, you said in the hierarchy, it's because you've got the most competence." It's like, okay, competence at what? Like competence by itself is not a thing. Like competence at what? Right? Turns out that it's competence at grifting, right? Regarding Jordan B. Peterson, he isn't optimistic about pronouns. I mean, who cares what this guy thinks? Like, really, like he broke into the mainstream by lying, right? Everything he does is like surrounded by this like pretty clear lie. Can you give the TLDR on the conservative drama with Peterson and the other talking heads recently? I didn't have the energy to look into it. Dude, there isn't actually a story, right? Like, it really isn't. It's all of the grifters jockeying for position. That's all it is. And the best part about it, because they all know that they're grifters, like they know of each other that they're all grifters, right? They understand what the game that they're in actually is, which is why they don't like. They're not like serious. How to say this properly? Like, they all know that they are exploiting something in the people who are paying attention to them. Like, Peterson has openly stated explicitly. He was like on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he was like, I shouldn't say this, but I found a way to monetize social justice warriors. And then they both had a laugh, as if it was a joke. But that's exactly... Oh, joking. Anemone, you got me. But that's exactly what he's doing, right? He's attempting to find... he's using his psychology knowledge and his knowledge of psychology not to actually improve the lives of other people, but to grift, right? To manipulate people. Like, that's what he's doing, fundamentally. He's manipulating people. And okay, the too long didn't read on the conservative drama. So all of these conservative types, it really started because Crowder and Shapiro were making a business deal, basically. Like, the Daily Wire was going to buy Crowder's show for like $500 million. Like just an absurd amount of money. But there is this caveat that's within the contract where if Crowder gets demonetized on YouTube, then the deal will fall through, or there'll be less money involved, or something like this. And so Crowder's pushing back, and he aired some grievances and so on and so forth. But it's to everyone's benefit. Like, this is the thing that I always say, right? It's to everyone's benefit to do this kind of stuff, to stir up controversy. And that's all they're really doing. Like, they're just trying to get a good business deal for themselves. They're just trying to make as much money as they can for themselves. Even though if I was Crowder, I would be like, oh, $500 million? Thank you, sir. You have yourself a lovely day. I literally would just be like, signed. Did I say 500 million? Yeah. 50 million. Oh my God. Yeah. And because there's controversy going on, because there's shit going on, it's the grifters. Like, these people are like vultures and hyenas, right? Like, they just pick off of corpses and stuff. Like, they're not actually intelligent people, right? They just know that eyes are looking at this, and this is within my wheelhouse, right? So I should comment on this and get involved in this, so that eyes, instead of looking at this, will look at me. And then I will be connected to this. Like, it's just fucking grifting, dude. It's just fucking grifting. It's pretty stunning. Like, it's pretty stunning to see how obvious it's getting. And and so people like Candace Owens and Peterson and all these guys, they just know that, oh, my fan base is involved in this, and this is what they're talking about, so I better get involved. Right? That's all. So I'm guessing Crowder's deal had something to do with Peterson's. No, Crowder's deal is literally just they're selling Crowder's show to the Daily Wire, and they're just negotiating the price. That's all. Like, if I were to distill this down to its finest point, Crowder wants more money, Shapiro doesn't want to pay. That's all. Like, that's really the bottom line. And they're just doing it all in public because it benefits everybody. It is an interesting story, right? That Ben Shapiro is going to buy Steven Crowder's show, right? Interesting show. That's a worthwhile thing to discuss. And so them doing it all out in the open and like making it bombastic and stirring up controversy and all that, gets eyeballs on it. Here I am talking about it, right? And that's all that matters, right? The only thing that matters in the media landscape is getting people's attention and keeping people's attention. Like, you think about these guys, you think about like Shapiro and Crowder and Peterson and all of this. If everyone just looked away, if everyone was just looking at Peterson and then everybody just turned their heads slightly and just looked away and looked at something else, Jordan Peterson's entire career collapses. Crowder, Shapiro, like all of them, just because the entire ethos of who they are, the entire idea, and this is also incidentally true of myself, is that if everyone in the world turns and looks at you, then you're the richest person in the room. Like, that is how it works. That if everyone's looking at you and if everyone's interested in what you're saying and if everyone's interested in what you're doing, then you're rich. Period. Like, hands down. Advertisers are literally going to give you sweetheart deals. Like, if you've got 1 million people looking at you, yeah. When you're talking to those 1 million people that are looking at you, can you just hold up a box of Wheaties and just be like, "Boy, I sure like Wheaties," right? Like that's how it works. And so these guys are completely incentivized to just be like, how can I get more eyes on me? How can I just get people looking at me? And they're going to do the dumbest, most outrageous bullshit stuff that these people like and they have PR for, they got people whose job it is to come up with ideas for how to drive attention to them. Right? Like when Crowder is dressing up like a woman and going to a gym and pretending to be a transvestite and doing dumb shit, that's not his idea. Right? It's not a good idea even, but it drove attention and people watched it. And that's all that matters. right? And that's what these grifters understand. They understand that the only thing that matters is have people look at you. And it doesn't even matter what they look at you for. Because the greatest example of this is someone like Kanye, right? That like Kanye understands. It doesn't matter why they're looking at you. It really doesn't matter why they're looking at you. They're looking at you. That's all that matters. And like, so they're going to do what they need to say, and they're going to say what they need to do, and they're going to do all the stuff and do all the things and flip all the blah and blah, 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 blah. Right? We've got a freak show culture. George Carlin was absolutely right about this, right? It's a freak show. And that's what we're here for. We're here to watch the freak show. We're not here to have an important discussion about how to actually organize society and live in a real thing. Clown show. Thought there had to be something of substance. You are wrong. You're wrong, dude. The story literally is Shapiro wants to buy Crowder's show. Crowder wants more money, and so is just driving attention and creating controversy in order to drive attention at the right moment. That's all. That's the whole fucking story. And then the other vultures are going, well, I should also, and then get involved and connect and all this. And they're trying to spin stories as if this matters, as if this is like a big fucking thing. But really, like, the only actual thing to point out is like, oh, capitals. Capital is merger and acquisition, right? So a bigger fish is eating a smaller fish, right? Just getting bigger. And somebody actually said, no way Shapiro can go away now. Yeah, he'd have the musical chairs of talking heads, and he's like their leader. Yeah, I think that is how Shapiro is positioning himself, is that he wants to be the head of fascist. Like, he wants to be the top of the fascist crew. And he is building like a little empire, right? Like, he is doing it that way. I wouldn't be too surprised if once Tucker goes away, like once Tucker fades out, that Fox News is going to be in a real bit of trouble, because what Shapiro is doing is essentially buying up the talent that would be going to Fox otherwise, right? That typically these people, like someone like Crowder, like these people would end up at Fox News, right? Because that's sort of that's where these sorts of figures end up. And so Shapiro is kind of gobbling that talent up, gobbling these people up and putting them under a singular umbrella. And it is just like an umbrella of grifters who are all in it to just parasticize the culture in a massive way. And what's funny is that, like, some of them are a lot more self-aware than others. Like Candace Owen, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say Candace Owen, but I did. Candace Owen, like, she's extremely aware of how she's a grifter. Like, she understands pretty explicitly that she's a grifter. Whereas Ben Shapiro, I think, is a bit more deluded. Like, he's got that kind of delusion that only religious fundamentalists can have, which is like, I believe magic is real, but I'm still a serious person, you know? Like literally, like I think that a wizard walked around for real, and that was a real thing that actually happened, but I'm still a serious person who should own a media empire. You know, like that kind of thinking. And that's a bad example because he's actually a Jew. But, oh, Milo. I fed you. You've had water. You've had treats. Oh, you need more water. That's fair, dude. More water. Here we go. That's fair. More water for Milo. Here you go, buddy boy. You're a good boy. You absolutely deserve water, my sweet little man. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Milo was like, I'm in distress. I'm in real distress. Well, I would be in distress too if I didn't have any water. Yeah, didn't JP dox the patients he was purportedly there to help when he uploaded these docs? Yes, he did. He doxed the not the patients he was there to help. He doxed the complainants specifically. Like, that's what he has done. Like, that in my mind, that fact by itself, the fact that he doxed the complainants in this, uh, is enough. He should lose his license over that alone. Adrian Somolji. I don't know if I've ever seen you here, bud. Hope you're here to be beautiful, bud. This is a nice first comment, I gotta tell you. A nice, calm first comment. Not the typical stuff I get. I typically get from first-timers stuff like, name me a country where communism has been successful. And then I'll just not agree with it and leave. Like, anyway, are communists traditional or progressive? I mean, I think I'll actually, not to be a shithead about it, but like, what do you mean by that? Like, traditional or progressive? What does that actually mean? Like, I think I just need you to be a little bit more specific. I do think that communists usually would be described, if I understand what your question is, are usually, would be described as traditional. That, like, for example, in the Soviet Union, homosexual marriages were banned for a period of time, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, okay. The identity politics stuff. Yeah, that's what I thought you were talking about. Yeah, like throughout history, communists have been fairly like in step with the rest of the world. Like, because communism is not really a movement about those issues. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is that communism is about material economics. It's about material reality. It's about the material condition between the classes of workers and owners. That's what communism is all about. And so the communists of the past who have moved forward in the world have basically been of the same mind as everyone else, because the movement was never about that. And I would argue that modern day communists are much more progressive in this way. Like my general opinion of LGBTQ rights and trans rights and things like this is do what you like, and that's it. Like I don't really make much extra commentary on it than that, because I'm a straight white male. And I think that the people who should be listened to and taken seriously about that subject are the people who are experiencing it, and the people who are living that life and doing that and going into those communities and seeing what's going on, right? And my perspective of LGBTQ communities and all of that is that it seems like they're trying, and that's it. And we should let them, and we shouldn't get in their way, and we shouldn't cause any problems. I think that people like Matt Walsh are absolutely disgusting and disgraceful people. Like, literally calls himself a theocratic fascist, and yet, yeah, let's take this guy's opinion on trans rights seriously, right? And, yeah, and so it's like, when it comes to that issue, I think that communists throughout history have been as normal as everyone else around them, and that it is something that I do think that communists should adopt a more progressive position, because really, like, the science is in. Like, if you care about the science, if you care about material dialectal, I'm so tired, guys. If you care about these sorts of things, if you care about the science, if you care about just the factual reality of what it is to live in the world, well, you have to acknowledge that there are homosexual people, trans people, like, these people exist in the world, like, and there's nothing you can do about it, right? Like, that all you can really do is just go, well, there they are, let them live their life, or you can try to round them up if you like, but I'm going to tell you, if you try that, then you're not making a really nice society, right? So I think people should be able to do what they like, and that's the long and short of it. Yeah, what community has ever been pro-LGBT before the 20th century? Yeah, it really is, like, it's the something goes on from, like, 1970 to now, where this issue gets to be, like,
the issue and gets to be some huge gains have been made very quickly. And I really do think that it is, yeah, Leon's exactly right. Indigenous communities were pro-LGBT before colonization. I think for exactly the reason I was talking about, which is like, there they are. They were created. Like, what, you're gonna say no to your creator? Like, that's really the attitude. It's just like, your creator made them. Like, how dare you? Like, who the fuck are you, piece of shit? You're standing in front of me saying it's unnatural when it's literally your creator created it? Like, shut up. It's so stupid. And it is stupid. Like, it is. Like, the whole attitude of, like, here's a man who's attracted to another man. They will burn in hell for all of it. Can you imagine a dumber thing than believing that, like, God created this so that he could make them burn in hell forever? Like, I just think it's, like, the most, like, you have shut your brain down. Like, literally just, and you're just no longer interested in participating intellectually. The the anarchist, here's the thing, is that I think you can find figures, but there's never, like, the modern era is like when this as a movement seems to have really pushed in and, like, really taken center stage. And I think there's a lot of really good reasons for it. I think that the LGBTQ community has successfully, that major media systems have really told their stories in big ways. In ways that, like, I've never seen stories about communists the way that I've seen stories about LGBT people, you know? So we're talking about big Hollywood level multi-million dollar film and television productions, like huge scale stuff getting spread throughout the society. Like, even something as simple, and I know I tend to think that people think that what I'm about to say is a bit silly, but I think it is actually true. Will and Grace was, like, this absolute, like, bell for straight white women. Like, I watched it happen in my own community, in my own rural Manitoban community. That, like, Will and Grace came out, and what suburban white women watched Will and Grace, and were basically just like, we love these guys. Like, these guys seem harmless. They seem fine. What's the problem? And then you had a bunch of white suburban women turning to their farmer husbands who were like, gay people are bad. And then just being like, what are you talking about? And that was, like, it. That was, like, the end of the conversation. That, like, straight up, like, these wives were basically like, Jack is harmless. This is what you're afraid of? You're afraid of Will? What are you afraid of? A big tough guy out in his field on his combine, afraid of a little guy doing nothing. And that's really what happened. And these stories kept getting told, and these stories kept getting told, and these figures started to get more and more common throughout the media. And of course, now capitalism has done what capitalism always does, which is sort of ruined it, right? Now they're taking the most cynical approach ever, monetizing it, and playing and they're constantly playing the card of, oh, you didn't like that movie, eh? That must be because you're a homophobe. There was a gay person in that movie, so that means you need to love this movie. And if you don't love this movie, even though it's the worst piece of dreck ever made, then you're a homophobe. And that's kind of it. Like, I think you're right, Eric. Like, feminism, absolutely, but for the masses, right? Like, for the mass of people, I think that we have an enormous propaganda system. We have an enormous media system. And I think that the media system itself started to spread throughout the idea that it's okay to be gay. And it became, like, I think the thing that really cinched it is that if you do a depiction of what it is to be a gay person in America, and you see how they're treated in film and television, you're immediately like, oh, that's not the world I want to live in. I don't like that as a reflection of reality. And I think it literally straight up changed hearts and mind in a way that I don't think it could have been throughout, right? And so to go back in to kind of, you know, pre the 60s or pre film and television and sort of expect communists to act any differently than the rest of the society, I don't think that that's a fair thing to do. I do think that as we advance, communists should definitely adopt these positions, but what I tend to see happen is identity politics being used as a shield to deflect away from the conversation of communism, which is the material conditions of the citizens, between the worker and the bourgeoisie. Oh, who's saying something? If Compton's spitting fire, if Compton's getting his nails up, how you doing, Compton? Glad to see you, bud. Yeah, Britain was still castrating and imprisoning homosexuals in the 20th century, so I don't know who's supposed to have the moral superiority in the argument. Communists hate trans. Yeah. Like, that's more or less what I'm trying to say, Marcus. That, like, there really wasn't... Like, we tend to take for granted, I think especially young people, tend to take for granted that the movement of it's okay to be gay and the LGBTQ movement is extremely new, like extremely new, and you can go back and watch movies from the 40s and 50s and see that that's very, very true, and these sexual liberation movements are extremely new and uniquely American, like uniquely Western, that it's pretty difficult to find anything like this in all of human history. That there are little kind of cabals and there are little groups that certainly exist, but nothing like this. This is a whole other thing. Like this is an overwhelming, like we're overwhelming the society with it, and I think that that's absolutely what's happened. And so to turn around and kind of look back, and this happens all the time in like people will talk about the Bible, for example, and they'll be like, well, the Bible says this. And it's like, yeah, because the Bible was written by a bunch of people living in a fucking desert. Like, this is an improvement from that. Like, I'm not telling you to live this way, but certainly you have to acknowledge that, like, the conditions that they lived in, the material reality of what was happening, and see the reality that they're trying to improve and iterate on that reality. Like, I understand that there are people in the discourse who do say, follow this book blindly, but those people are goons. Like, fuck those guys. Yeah, I think the Abrahamic faiths had something to do with the rampant anti-LGBT through the last 2,000 years. I might be wrong. Yeah, probably, bro. Like, probably. I think that it really comes down to just men own women, and we don't really know what to do with this idea that there are men who like men. So you want me to be property? No. Like, I actually do think a lot of it is tied up in property rights and, like, people owning people. Because, like, if I own women, right, women are property, I own them, and that's the relationship, and then a man says to me, I would like to have a relationship with you, as a woman, then suddenly I'm a piece of property, right? So, no, absolutely not. I am not a piece of property. That's for women. Right? And I feel like that ties in, for sure, that, like, one of the worst ideas that humanity has ever had is that people are property. Just, like, straight up the worst idea. Adrian says, fun fact, where I live, our government tried to stop inflation in a communist way, and now we have the biggest inflation in Europe and lowest salaries. I mean, how did they do it? Like, what's a communist way? Like, and Hungary? So Orban? Well, Orban's not a communist, bro. Like, not even close. Not even close. Last of Us, it was the best portrayal of homosexual love story in media, and I was disappointed to see people making comments it was unnecessary. Honestly, Marcus, I think that what is happening, and it's difficult for me to say that it's unfair, is that I just think people are fucking exhausted by it. Like, really, I think they're just overwhelmed, overstimulated, that people really are at a point where they just want to see like good stories being told in front of them, and they do feel like it's just being jammed down their throats. And they're just like, come on, like can I just see a story about, I don't know, like a guy riding a dragon? Can I just see, like, does it need to be a guy riding a dragon who also wants to have sex with other good dudes? Like, can I just see like the never ending story again? Like, can we just like, and I do think that people feel like it is like there is an overwhelming ideology being jammed down their throats, and we can debate whether or not that's true or not, but it's what people feel like. It's how they feel. And so what that means is that it means that when somebody actually does tell a story like that, that is well told, people are still like, oh my fucking God, like, more, oh, LeFou is gay, I guess. And this guy's like, okay, Jesus. And I just think that because capitalism ruins everything, right? Because of the monetization and the cynical desire to make as much money from this and be like, yeah, we'll hit this crowd with this, and we'll have a gay character and that'll get the gays in, right? And like this kind of thinking, and instead of having a storytelling focus, that it's made people very cynical, right? And that's frustrating. And I understand your disappointment, right? I understand why you would be disappointed, because like these stories are good and they can be well told. But if you're sitting there, you know, especially if you are like, you know, a straight white man, Trump supporter type, right? You're kind of tired of it, right? And of course, straight white men can afford to be tired of it. But the ultimate thing is that like does everything 100% of the time constantly need to always be about that? Like always 100%? Like eventually there just comes a point where a dude just wants to sit and drink a beer and watch the game. That's it. Like it's it's pretty simple. They think high tax and price fixing is communist. Yeah, they're lying. Yeah, that's right. Like high taxes and price fixing is not communist. That's Keynesian economics, right? Like tax the rich is not a communist idea. A communist idea is take the means of production away from the rich, take the means of production away from the ownership class and give it to the workers. There's a communist idea. Make it so that the people who are making the eggs are the workers and not the worthless investor class. Like, literally say to the people who are raising the prices and jacking prices on the populace, get fucked, goodbye, you're no longer part of this. And just exclude them. Like, the idea that we're going to solve these problems by, like, raising taxes and doing price fixing, it's unserious. Because the people who are responsible for creating and producing are a worthless, detached, parasitical class who are not actually interested in solving problems. They're interested in making wealth for themselves. So, if you raise taxes on them, well, then they're going to raise prices on you, right? And if you try to price fix certain things, well, then they'll raise prices on other things. Like, we have given these people so much power, and we don't really respect or understand how much power we've given them. And if you give someone control of the machine and then pretend as though the fixes are going to be altering things on the machine, you're out to lunch. Like, you're out to lunch. You need to take the machine away from them and tell them that they are no longer welcome to participate. That's a communist idea. Like, seize the means of production. Get them gone. Erect a dictatorship of the proletariat. Make it so the capitalists don't even own a newspaper, let alone a media empire. Like, say goodbye to them. There's a communist idea. What you're experiencing is Keynesian economics, which is a way to negotiate with the capitalist class, which ultimately fails because the capitalists can't be negotiated with. They're psychopaths. Like, they'll be deterred for a minute. Like, they'll be put in their place for a minute. But they'll tear it all back down. That's what they do. They can't help themselves. They're psychopaths. Well, there was a push from the capitalist class to get involved into identity politics as a way to distract people from communism. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Like, the Occupy Wall Street movement scared the establishment in a big way. And but I think that the quote-unquote identity politics, like Will and Grace happened before that. So I think that these are legitimate expressions that were coming out of the system in a way. And the LGBT rights were definitely in the society and being heard and being prominent. But it is true that once Occupy Wall Street happened, I do think that, like, they really started pushing identity politics in a huge way, specifically to get people to stop talking about wealth inequality, right? The realities of their material conditions, these sorts of things. Because I think the Occupy Wall Street movement scared the shit out of them, and it should have. Like, it really should have. Like, it was that movement could have gone sideways. Like, it could have gone sideways on them in big ways. Like, people could have just started to decide to go into these places and just tear them apart. They could have done that. There was nothing stopping them. Like, that's the thing that really blows me away the most about Occupy Wall Street, is like how reserved they actually were. Like, they could have burnt the entire city down. They could have burnt Wall Street down. There was millions of people fucking hanging out in Zuccotti Park. Can you even imagine that today? Can you even imagine? Here's something, by the way, that's happening in France right now. Unreported, of course, in our media for very obvious reasons. Right? But you think about, like, this is what Occupy Wall Street looked like. For months, this is what it looked like. You think these people can't just go into the building behind them and burn it down? Of course they can, if they have the will to do so. So this needs to be distracted somehow. And I do think identity politics has become the way to do that. And incidentally, the backlash from all of this, like inundating people in the way that they've been inundated, the backlash from it is going to be real crazy. It's going to be real crazy. It's going to be hyper Christian, hyper right-wing, hyper fascist, right? Like you're going to see like a resurrection of like your Archie Bunker types, except no one's going to say they're wrong, that kind of thing. Hungary politics has nothing to do with communism. It's very much a fascist state, and their policies very much toward conservatism. And it's a conservative government. Yeah, Orban is not a communist, man. Like, it's not even close. Oh, look, fascists lying about communism again. Thanks for telling me a random guy from internet. Yeah, fantastic. That's basically my whole life right now, dude. And we could forget that Hungary got heavily influenced by neoliberal economics, yeah. Yeah. Has it ever occurred to you that Hungary's economy was always going to be at the back foot regardless of policies? Yeah. The United States, for example, has states that can afford several Hungaries. That's also true. And a worthwhile thing to say, which is that, you know, sometimes it doesn't matter what politics and what person you have in power. And it doesn't matter how hard they try. Sometimes just the way the world is going can just blow someone right over, right? And I think that does happen. Well, I think somebody was in here not that long ago talking about a Romanian communist leader and how he failed, and it was a whole thing. I was like, yeah, dude, of course he failed. Like, he's trying to cling to communism while communism was collapsing across Eastern Europe. Yeah, good luck with that, man. Like, good luck with that. The Soviet Union dissolved. Like, yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with trying to keep the communist project going while the primary and major like beacon of it is retracting and blowing up. Yeah, good luck with that. Like, it's just there is such a thing as like if you need a very big boat to survive a storm in the ocean, and if your boat's not big enough, it's gonna get capsized no matter how good your captain is. You know, like. It's just how it goes sometimes. And I think that's true of Hungary. That, like, even if there was a communist in power in Hungary, like, they're not like Hungary's not well positioned. Like it's not really well positioned. It's not a big superpower. It doesn't have a lot of clout. Doesn't like what's Hungary even produce? Right? Like it's I hate it when it jumps down like that. I hate it when it jumps down like that. Garv, good to see ya. I say that because I observe the cultures at least touched by Christianity tend to be more LGBTQ positive. Japan had a third gender, for example. Yeah, this is an interesting idea looking to Z, and something that I haven't put that much thought into. I'm from a Christian background, so you'd think I would have, but like, I think your observation is correct. Like, Christianity seems to have like everything's very monogamous and men and women, like, and that's sort of the way of it. And I wonder what that is. I couldn't tell you. Maybe it is as stupid as just like Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. Like maybe it really is just that reductive. Garv, good to see you, man. Great to be among fellow independent thinkers again. Yes, fellow independent thinkers who all think the same. No, I'm fucking kidding. That's just a joke. Eric, you're the one who brought up Hungary. I'm actually fairly knowledgeable what's happening in Europe. All anti-LGBTQ comes from religion. Change my mind. I don't think I will. I think I'm happy with you saying that. That seems accurate. You know, it must be at least strictly ideological, right? It's not based in reality. One of the things that helped me, because like I said, I came from a Christian background, and until I was like 25, I was still anti-gay, and I was still like arguing from that perspective even. And the thing that really started to turn me around, there were many things, but one of the things really was like, hey bro, the science is in. Like, these people are not choosing to be gay. And I remember being in university and talking to gay people, good people who I wish I could have been friends with those people, but just it wasn't in the cards because of who I was and who they were. And and I would just say to them, we would have conversations because I was struggling with this as a fundamentalist evangelical Christian. And I'd be like, just how do you know that you're gay? And I remember just one guy looked at me, well, how do you know you're straight? And it was as simple as that. Just this realization of like, oh yeah, like, and then I remember there was a speech that a black lesbian woman gave about this idea of it's a choice. And she said, who in their right mind would ever choose in America today to be a black lesbian woman? And I just was like, yeah, that is a fair point. Like, if you could choose to not be a black lesbian woman, you definitely would. In America today. You definitely would. For sure. For sure. There's nobody like, boy, howdy, I can't wait to choose to be gay so that I can get stonewalled. Like, boy, howdy, I can't wait until a bunch of fascists throw shit at me. Like, once I realized that it was just like, oh yeah, like they're not choosing, it's in their fucking DNA, it's the science. Like the whole thing starts to unravel, and then you watch shows and you're just like, these people are fucking harmless. Like, what am I scared of? And then you actually, and one of the realizations I had about this issue is that I think the thing that was holding everybody up was just they were being confronted with a question. And that was, am I gay? That's really what it was. It's why the most virulent anti-gay crusaders end up themselves being gay. Because they're taking that fear and suppression and rage and the shame and the worry about how their society is going to react, and they're projecting it outward, right? But eventually it got to the point where most people put on some porn, ask themselves, am I gay? And everybody went no, or maybe yes, right? Had the question answered. But more or less, you had a bunch of just straight white men answering the question and going, okay, all right. Yep, all right. And that was it. The trans story is different and much more difficult because we've got real fucking winners like Walsh in the conversation, who's taken seriously for some reason. If you find progressive churches, it's in spite of religion, not because of it. Yeah, well, and religion is often the last thing to reform itself. I mean, communist way, like the petrol couldn't cost more money than, and now we don't have petrol and stuff. I don't really understand what you're saying, dude. It honestly just sounds like neoliberalism to me. Straight up. Like, it just sounds like normal neoliberalism, and it sounds like the fascists around you are trying to blame communists for something that is the fault of the neoliberal global system. Right? That, like, no, it's not communists that have made it so you don't have any petrol. Like, there are no communists that have power. Like, and these ideas are not communist. Like, it's just shocking to think. Like, this is what capitalists are great at. They're great at taking credit for the successes of the populace using socialism, right? So the populace will actually finally get together and actually put forward some socialist or communist ideas, and then capitalists will take credit for it. We've seen them do that over and over again. And they're really, really good at scapegoating the powerless. We see them do that all through, like, World War II, for example, is a great example of that. So if they're really good at gaslighting and deflecting, is what I think I'm trying to get at. John, as a bisexual man, I'm exhausted from seeing hetero media. Can we put a pause in depicting love in media, please? You know what? And I actually think that bisexuality has never been explored seriously in media. Like, that this is a big reason why I think I know for myself, like, is that it's not really being done seriously. You know, if you understand me. That, like, the characters who are being depicted are not actually serious characters, and they're not actually seriously exploring the reality of what it is. And when it does get explored, it's usually the moral of the story is, and that's why it doesn't work, right? Like, have you ever seen a polyamorous love story? Ever? Like, no. And if there is one, it's only to say, well, polyamory doesn't actually work, right? And I have never, literally never seen a story that is about a bisexual man, especially. Like, maybe I've seen sort of a side character who is bisexual woman, but a bisexual man, definitely not, who is seriously presented and seriously, and where they seriously explore this, right? Like, I think most of the time it just feels like it's like, let's write a script and then kind of say, okay, and then you're gay, and then you're this person, and you're that person. And it really feels that way. Like, I don't... And oftentimes, I'm like, why do I need to know this even about them? Like, does it really... Like, and it's always presented in a very ham-handed way. Like it just, like, do I really need to know what the fuck habits are of, like, a wizard in a movie? Like, do I really need to know if, like, Willow is into other, you know, men? Like, does that really fucking matter to me? And it just is like, and I'm not saying exclude it, but it's obviously so cynically done. It's obviously being done this way. That, like, Disney is saying to you, oh, you didn't like that, eh? Homophobe. Like, that is what's happening. I'm watching that happen. And it sucks. It's annoying. It lets them get away with shitty storytelling. Because they can tell the shittiest stories possible, most uncreative, banal bullshit you've ever seen. And if you stand up and say, that's uncreative, banal bullshit, they go, well, you're a racist because you don't like the black character. Like, no, I thought that it was a bad story. Like, I thought it wasn't well told. It wasn't interesting. Yeah, if that's something a racist would say, all right. That must be your bias. You don't even understand how good this was. This was actually really good. You know, if you're a person of color, this was actually really great. So you just must be racist. Like, it's fucking annoying. Like, you can't actually have a serious conversation about anything anymore because everything has been reduced to this cynical salesman culture war bullshit that I'm so tired of it. Like, I don't care if Dumbledore is gay. Like, make Dumbledore gay. Have Dumbledore be the gayest. Make him show up in fucking rainbow robes if you fucking want. Right? But, like, do I really need, like, big, long exposition when the story is about fucking Harry Potter stopping, like, dark wizards and shit? You know? Like, it just all seems so obviously salesman. Like, I'm obviously being sold a product and not being told a story. And that's really what it's coming down to for me. It's like, and I'm just kind of being told to like it because. I'm like, but it's not interesting. And that for me is the biggest critique of it all, is that I find it to be quite banal and boring and uninteresting when it shouldn't be. It should be extremely interesting, and I should be extremely engaged. Like, this is a fascinating aspect of human society and human culture, and it's been distilled of anything that makes it interesting, that makes it worth looking at, and turned into a product. Like, but I also do think, like, that is also true of heterosex. Like, all this Hallmark shit, like all the Hallmark movies. You see me loading up a lot of Hallmark movies? No. Why? Because it's banal, boring, cookie-cutter bullshit. Where the characters are, like, just, they don't exist. They're not real people. You know? We've just found the formula. And Hallmark is exactly like that, dude. They have found the fucking formula. Oh, morality is a human construct. I mean, morality is a human construct. Like, it's... Oh! Down with the breeders. Profoundly mediocre clowns. Yeah. Tonight, I'm in a hate the straights mood. No, I can tell, Con. I can tell. That's okay, dude. The straights can take it. The straights need to be taken down a peg, honestly. Us straights are too... We're too full of ourselves. Keep in mind that Keynesian economics lasted from 1930 and 1980, and the parasite class continued to dismantle that system. Yeah, exactly. Oh, have a good one, Adrian. I definitely missed that, but hope you're doing well. That's weird, eh? That like the Hungarians are trying to pitch this idea that what's happening is communism. That's weird. That feels very creepy. Like he seemed like a nice enough fella, but that whole interaction felt very creepy to me. Like, I feel very like, oh, is that happening in Hungary? Are the Hungarians literally being like, it's the communists that are causing this? Do people believe that? Is that a thing that's real? Ugh. 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 I went to McDonald's on the weekend and noticed the small cup of coffee shrunk in half. Yep. Times are tough all over. Grinning, good to see you. Social democracy, left-wing and fascism. Yep, preaching to the choir here, bud. We're not doing TikTok today, so it's just a lot of inside baseball. Well, and Adrian, apparently. Yeah, they started putting LGBT flags on warplanes. Yeah, what a great way. What a great way to demonize the LGBT community, right? What a great way to ensure that the LGBT movement never reaches outside of America, right? Perfect. You've done it. That make people associate the gay pride flag with their house being blown up. You did it. Perfect way to destroy that movement, if you ask me. Perfect way to do it. Like, literally have people think of the Nazi swastika, the American flag, and the pride flag. Put those three together, and that's what people will think of. Good job. I see a lot of red and yellow in that crowd, just saying. Objective morality. I mean, I tend to when I tend to think about morality, like, most people do have some kind of like core, So there's something that most of their thinking does come out of. And for me, it is the concept of consent. That like we each need to give our consent to what is happening. And once consent is given, then do what you like, right? Once consent is given, do what you like. And if you don't ever ask for consent, then I have a big problem with that. Like, it's why you get idiots like Prager saying like, oh, without religion or without Christ, right? Like, there's no legitimate argument against incest. I'm like, yeah, there is. Yeah, sure there is. Right? What you think? You think a father doesn't have like some kind of power dynamic or some kind of leverage on his daughter? You think that that's a consensual relationship? You think that there's you think that a young girl is definitely gonna say no to her daddy? Like, fucking weirdo. Prager's a weirdo, dude. These guys are all weirdos. Oh, what were you trying to show in the first Chinese energy graph? Yeah, I was trying to show this. So, top 10 countries for energy transition investment 2022. In billions of dollars, China, the yellow represents renewable energy. The little purple slipe you've got there is energy... is it energy storage? I think it's sustainable material. No, energy storage. They've got a couple of little tiny stripes here that are like nuclear energy storage. And then the green bar here is electrified transport. And then sustainable materials is the brown. But as you can see, the final number, the final figure, 546 billion versus the United States, 141 billion. And we all know that like most of that 141 is just going to go in the pockets of these fucking worthless class, right? Like literally hedge fund managers and bullshit like this. They're just going to be like, 141, yeah, we're going to do a solar panel field over here. And then they'll put up some glass, make it look like a solar panel for a minute, and then take the money and pocket it because they're a culture of grifters. They're not actually going to build anything. Certainly nothing that lasts. And then you look, and then it's Germany and France and all the rest, right? But China is just like, absolutely, just like blowing it out of the water. Absolutely insisting that this get done. But communism's a failure, and nobody ever does communism. That's the only time communism's ever been tried is when it's failed completely in any culture, in any society that tries to do any communism at all. It all collapses in on itself, and nothing ever good happened at all. Fucking the Russians first into space. Literally the Soviets first into space, but whatever. But everything begins to exist, so God. You got me, that guy. Nailed it. I definitely don't feel like talking about that tonight. I tell you what. I'm too tired for that shit, dude. I can't do it. But you nailed me, dude. You got it. I think the best thing I ever did when talking about the subject of God is not taking it at all seriously. I think that's the best thing to do. I have my thoughts, but I'm not like, if they're wrong, I'm gonna be like, oh no, like, you know, like that little oh no starfish that exists. I'm just gonna be like, oh no, and that's it. William Lane Craig is a brilliant man. Give me a stroke one of these. Someone said a beautiful one. You can't argue a God into existence. Imagine people actually get to choose who they are before they're born. Like a video game character creation screen before you spawned in. Dude, I got words for my guy. No, I've done okay. Like, my guy's okay. But like, there are definitely harder roads. No doubt. No doubt. Crowder, he said he used to be bi. That's I think that Crowder saying used to be bi is probably grifting bullshit. Like, I don't really believe anything these guys say. Like, that's the thing. Anyway. Yeah, I know, Eric. I know. You want to talk about Jordan Peterson? John Peterson uploaded a document with screenshots of the complaints made against him to the College of Law. Yeah. Hated Amazon telling Tolkien fans they were racist for not liking Lord of the Rings or because, Black Elf. Yeah. Dumbledore being gay never really comes up in the books. Yeah. Like, that's... This is sort of what I'm talking about this kind of tacked on side thing. It's like it's not there, right? It's literally something she declared in Twitter one day. Actually, Dumbledore's gay. And we're all just supposed to be like, like, who, like, what's it matter? You know, what would have actually made that more profound, right? A revelation is if they did something like a movie or something like this, where you had a young Dumbledore, and then it turned out that he was in a relationship with a man, right? And that the scene comes out, he's like, oh, I'm going out with my partner, or this kind of thing, and then he just like walks into the frame and it's another man, and then Dumbledore says goodnight and they leave, and that's the commentary. Like, so much of what I see is just this like looming morality of it, of like, if you don't like this, you're a dick, and it's all tacked on cynical morality to sell a product. Whereas, like, what I think would be completely inoffensive, and what I would love to see, I would love to see this. Give me a character who's right in front of me, fleshed out, living a life, doing his thing, kicking ass, taking names, facing hardship, doing that kind of stuff, and then when he goes home and he has that scene with the wife, right? The wife or the person who's trying to console them, that it's a man. And it's the same fucking scene. And don't have a little moment of like, and it's because we're gay. Like, fuck all that. Like, fuck all that. Like, this is a thing that happens and is normal in their lives. Like, I just never, ever, ever, ever believe that the gay relationship that's tacked on to the side to sell the product is real. Ever. Because it doesn't look like anything I've ever seen. It looks fake. It's cynical and it's dumb and it's bullshit and it pisses me off. And I feel like if I was in the LGBTQ community, I'd be pissed off too. Because you're being commodified. You're being completely sold as a product to make money for these fucking pedophiles. Like, oh, it annoys me so much. Like, it annoys me so much. Like, you want your character to be gay? Great. Then either, like, have that be something that, like, here's a dare. Here's a fucking dare for the LGBTQ community. Make James Bond, but make him gay. I fucking dare you. I fucking dare you. You won't, because everyone's a shitty storyteller now. But, like, why is everything either just, like, tacked onto the side, hit over the hammer with it? Like, make it the thing. James Bond shoots people and fucks bitches. That's what he does. But now make him shoot people and fuck dudes. Boom. Make him bi. Have a bi James Bond. Fucking dudes. Fucking bitches. Let's go. My apologies for using the language bitches. I'm very tired, guys. Inclusive imperialism. Yeah, Seraphim's nailed it. Inclusive imperialism. Unfortunately, they are doing that. Its typical conservative tactic is to blame everything on communism when it's capitalism is at fault. That's why they keep saying conservatives are more dangerous than libs, since they actively try to push everything further to the right. Yeah, and you know what? It is. I shouldn't say that. Like, I don't know why I'm acting surprised. Like, conservatives do that. They like actively describe capitalism and then say, and that's what the communists want. And you're like, but like, that's dumb. But you're right. It is what they do. They do that. You're welcome. Nova Scotia, good to see you. Been out all day trying to find a new place to live this afternoon here in Halifax. Yeah, what a pain in the ass. That sounds like a pain in the ass, dude. What a time to be doing that. Yeah, Marcus, kind of creepy that the only thing keeping a religious man from raping his daughter is supernatural punishment. Yeah. Yeah, that feels creepy. Like it feels like a creepy thing that we literally have to have like a looming threat of eternal damnation and hellfire to keep you from, you know, having sex with your daughter. Let's not even say raping. Although there's just no way that there's consent involved in this. Right? There's just no way that your daughter is going to be like, "Yes, I consent, daddy." Like that's just not real. That doesn't feel real. It feels like it's going to be extremely manipulative, no matter what. It feels like it's going to be like a gaslighting, dominating relationship, no matter what. Even if the dude feels like it's not, it's just going to be that way. And like, nah, brah, nah, you don't get to be my friend. Like, nope, nah. Look at Dizzy says that's literally what's happening with the Russians. There's a video shared by Captain Cool 07 where Spetsnaz was making a speech where he mentions that LGBTQ is one of the Western degeneracies they should resist. Yeah, I have seen this, and it's true. The Russians have been moving in that direction. That like, it's, and I think it has something to do with what Seraphim said there, that the inclusionist imperialism, right? And it's like, so it's getting tied up and caught up into imperialism, and so the baby will get thrown out with the bathwater. So big win for the LGBTQ crowd for sure. I need a JP puppet. You guys keep saying that. I'm definitely not gonna, unless somebody mails me one. I'm definitely not even gonna spend a moment looking into that. Talk about systemic racism. The corporations tell us we are underestimating the progress while calling us racist for not liking them co-opting the social media causes for profit. Yeah. Have you ever watched the Loki TV series? I don't watch Marvel shit, dude. I'm done. Like, for me to even consider watching any of this shit anymore, it really needs to penetrate in a serious way. Like, I really need it to be out for like 4 years at least and still see like memes and shit. Like that's when I think I'm gonna be like, oh, okay, I'll spend even a moment. I'll put that on the side while I play a video game or something. Like that's where I'm at with this Marvel stuff. And most of the time it's just gonna be garbage. It's just gonna be dreck that's full of plot holes, that is extremely stupid. Like just the other night I was thinking about Thanos. Like, Thanos is a genocidal maniac. His solution to overpopulation is just commit a genocide. Just like kill half the world, half the universe's population or whatever. And it really dawned on me, like, oh, we just like all uncritically believed that the story he told was true. That my planet got overpopulated and they used up all the resources and that's what destroyed them. Certainly not the genocidal maniac using high-level technology to resolve this problem. Incidentally, isn't this a fictional problem said by a fictional character in the first fucking place? Like, the whole thing, the more I think about it, I cannot believe there are actually people walking around in the world being like, overpopulation and all that, that's a real problem because Thanos said so. And I'm just like, so a fictional character in a cartoon movie who was probably lying about it anyway because he's a psychopathic genocidal monster, said this, and you're just gonna buy it. Perfect. Like, fucking perfect, dude. Like, just fucking dumb, dead brain. Better yet, make James Bond die? How dare you, Leon? How dare you, sir? James Bond is my homie. Me and James Bond are tight. Tight like that. Even though, like, James Bond is an imperialist spy. Like, he's a figure that works on the benefit of British imperialism. That's definitely true. Definitely true. Galadriel from Rings of the Power was awful, and the showrunners called that criticism misogyny. Yeah, just bad writing to hide behind it. Yeah, that's what's happening, and it's annoying. It's annoying. It's annoying to be called like a bigot or misogynist because you wrote a shitty character. that doesn't actually have an arc. Like, he's a double agent, if you know what I mean. Wink! People freaked at a female Doctor Who. Gay James Bond would end their worlds. You know what, dude? I got a big problem with what they... I feel like they did the female Doctor Who super dirty. Like, super dirty. They set her up for failure. Like, really, really, really big time. Like, when Doctor Who comes onto the stage, right, he has a companion or two. It's always been the way of it. That he comes in, he's got a companion or two, right? And usually when there's two of them, the companions have some kind of relationship for themselves, or you've got one companion and then the second one shows up and that fades the other one out, right? It's what they do in order to kind of like present and then move on for the companions, that the companion gets overlap between the Doctors, and there's something nice about that because it gives it kind of a nice continuity and all of this, and it's a good, and so you get great episodes where a companion leaves and then a new one, and the new one takes the center stage and all that kind of stuff. When female Doctor Who, I forget her name, that drives me crazy that I'm forgetting her name right now. When the female Doctor Who showed up, they literally did like diversity team squad in what has to be described as the most cynical thing I've seen on television. That like literally you had like female Doctor Who show up and her companion who's like an Indian woman, and I was like, okay, and then like a black man, okay, and then what, like there was another one as well, and then an old white man, and it was like, so 4 companions showed up at the same, or maybe it was 3, but there was like a whole slew of them that was like team diversity squad all at once, just like boom right in front of your face, instead of it just being like Doctor Who but a woman. Like this is exactly what I'm talking about. That like it's not enough to have like Doctor Who but a woman, and then do good episodes and have really interesting stories told. And we've all seen these that are Doctor Who but a woman, right? It's got to be like the hyper focusing and the hyper putting forward of all of this like enormous messaging and enormous like banging you over the head with it, that obviously the culture is turning against. Obviously the culture is turning against. And it's turning against it only because they're like, shut the fuck up with it. Stop it. Like, make Doctor Who a woman. But can I see a fun story that's interesting with a woman who is Doctor Who? No, I gotta go through another fucking diatribe about like when I'm turning this shit on to escape that shit, and now it's infecting this, it's getting into this, and I'm like, and the society has gotten to a point where they're like, oh yeah, okay, Doctor Who's a woman, great, let's see what she's got, what are her chops? Like, you want to play in the field, you want to be a Doctor Who, you want to be here. But they did her dirty. They gave her the shittiest scripts I've ever seen in my life. Right? So you can't really judge her as an actress or a character or the quality of what she brought to the stage because they fucked her over from the beginning. They didn't give her anything. Like, they literally did this, like, team diversity squad thing. And what's a shame is that I think she would have been really great. Like, I thought that she actually did have the chops. I thought that she was presenting well as a Doctor Who. But they just like kept fucking, everything was always, let's focus on these other characters. Everything was always like this kind of thing. And it was like they were trying to do inclusivity in a show that is not about inclusivity at all. It's called Doctor Who. Doctor Who. Doctor Who. It's in the title. Right? And they made it like what's that called? So instead of it being a headliner, it's a group. Like Friends is a group, and there's a word for this, and I'm completely blanking on it. But like, and if you stood up and you said like, this stuff kind of sucks, like it's not fun, it's not even that interesting. It really is just kind of like, it was like porn. It was like a weird kind of like porn for it. Being like, yeah, it's so inclusive, the diversity. Instead of just being like, fun space-based stories that are kooky and weird, but she's a woman. And I think, and the thing that makes it kind of really annoying is that these people keep saying we want to be equal and we want equality, but all they keep doing is highlighting the differences, right? That's all they keep doing. And it's the only stories they're willing to tell are the stories about how, like, we want to be equal, but this is how we're different. And I'm like, well, how about you take, like, a Matt Smith Doctor Who story any of the Doctor Who's, take any of their stories and then tell it, but it's a woman. And then, you know what everyone will see? Oh, it's the same. Oh, it's the same. Oh, look at that. They told the same story and it was the same thing. And it didn't really matter that she was a woman. I guess we are equal all after all. Nope. Can't be like that. Gotta jam it down our throats. And if you don't like it, then you're a misogynist. Fuck you guys. I'm so pissed off because my background is storytelling and I want to tell stories. But the environment that I live in is literally like, do you want to tell the shittiest story ever told? And I'm like, not really. Too bad. That's what we're selling over here. God damn. God damn. Anyway, I gotta get off this subject, man. I gotta get off this subject. Unless it's Cotton. Cotton, you and I feel like Cotton, I'm gonna say something to you real straight here, bud. I feel like you and I, if we ever met in real life, I feel like you and I could probably get into like a screaming match with one another and be really happy about it. You understand what I mean by that? Like that, like, I feel like we would scream at each other and then be like, oh, good. That was fun. You know? Yeah, but John, you never see griller consumers demand better representation of... I don't know what griller means. Sorry, dude. Non-straight, non-white characters. They will tell you that it isn't even necessary to have diversity. I don't think I understand your comment because I don't know what you mean by griller consumers. Like, do you mean, like, is this straights? Are you going on the straights where we're, like, grilling at a thing? Is that what you're doing? Sure is hot today. Click, click. Yeah, Loki fell in love with himself. That's pushing the boundaries. Yeah. I mean, Rick and Morty did that too. Did you ever see Everything, Everywhere, All at Once? Lesbian in Another Dimension with hot dog fingers. I love that movie. I haven't actually seen it because I think that all they did... It's yet another sort of Marvel-type movie where they were just like, oh, Rick and Morty. Let's do Rick and Morty. That's kind of the thing. Maybe I'll watch it one day, because a lot of people liked it, and I bet you it's fun. Like, that. Honestly, if you wanted to convince me to actually watch any of this Marvel stuff, the number one thing that you could say to me is, it's fun. It was fun. And I'd be like, oh, okay, you know, I'll buy that. Like, I don't need to do a social critique on everything. Like, sometimes it's just, you know, it's fun. But honestly, my idea of what is fun usually doesn't align with other people's idea of what's fun. You know? And like, I don't think roller coasters are fun. Right? So if you're a type of person who's like, oh, I love roller coasters, they're so fun, I'm going to be like, good for you. And they'll be like, do you want to come on a roller coaster? And I'll be like, not really. And they're like, well, I'm going to go on the roller coaster and we're here. I'll be like, okay, I guess I'll go on the roller coaster with you because you seem to be having fun. And I like that. I like that you're having fun. And if I'm with you, I assume I like you. So let's get on the roller coaster. And then you can have fun. And I'll get slightly nauseous, and I guess the way that I have fun on a roller coaster is by, like, observing the roller coaster as it's happening. You know, like, I'm on the roller coaster, and the whole idea is like we're in danger, and it's thrilling, and I'm like, but we're not in danger. Like, it's extremely safe. It's moving fast, I guess, but I'm not very impressed by that. I distinctly remember the last roller coaster that I was on. Like, we were going down a dark tunnel, and there was light at the bottom, and everybody around me is like, woo! And I'm like, I bet you when we hit the end of this tunnel, it's going to immediately go into a loop. And sure enough, we went out of the tunnel, and you get that little bit of light blindness, right? And so, but we went into a loop, but it was a turning curve loop. It was like a corkscrew loop. And I distinctly remember as it was happening being like, oh, well done. That's clever. That was clever. and that's like. And so, if people say to me, like, if people are like fans of roller coasters or fan of Marvel movies, and they go, but it's fun, I'm like, is it fun though? Like, is it fun? Right? Like, some people's idea of what is fun are not my idea of what's fun. Anyway, Jodie Whittaker. Yeah, man, I just feel like they did her dirty. Like, she had the chops. She for sure had the chops. They just you can see that behind the scenes, while they had gotten convinced, like the money people had been convinced that this diversity play was a good play, but they didn't actually trust her. I think that's the truth. They didn't actually trust her. Because if they actually trusted her, they would have let her be Doctor Who. Like, Peter Capaldi was Doctor Who. They literally had entire episodes that were just Peter Capaldi. Literally just Peter Capaldi. The entire fucking episode. She didn't get that shit. Right? She got like a third of the airtime. Like, they did her fucking dirty. Eric, I finally got you to agree that conservatives are worse than liberals. Sure, dude, you can have it. I would recognize Succession, the smartest, most layered commentary on the obscenely wealthy. I've heard about Succession more than once, so I'll put that in my mind palace. See if it comes back around. Because, like, I very rarely move forward on single recommendations anymore. Like, really. It's got to be, like, a couple of people. It's got to come from, and it's got to come from, like, different places. Like, it's very, like, abstract. Like, it's not, unless somebody is, like, you know, very convincing. Marcus, did you hear about the insurgent from the West and the Ukrainian military execute the surrendering Russian? Premium evidence of the Russian army not to surrender. Yep, absolutely. Dude, it's a shit show. The whole Ukraine thing is just a total shit show at this point. Like, I've been saying it for a while now. Like, we're going to see Nazi salutes in the parliament. Like, it's going to happen. And when it happens, no one will report on it. Except, you know, hi, hello, how you doing? But, yeah. Ring of Power is fan fiction, yeah. I'm talking about typical people. Yeah, they don't want to think, they just want to grill. There's something nice. No, I'm not saying that we would have screaming matches content. I'm saying that if we did have a screaming match, I think we would both be fine with it. I don't understand why I think that. I just think that. Yeah, Di Maria, this is what I've heard about that movie is that and anytime you get into multiverse stuff, it does feel like, because the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. You can do what you like, right? And, like, what I think is really interesting about multiverse stuff is that it really reveals the repressive nature of our society. Our society is fairly repressive. I shouldn't say fairly, extremely repressive. Like, we have, like, the internet exists and pornography exists, and you can view anything you like in the comfort of your own home behind your closed doors, but we're all doing it collectively. So there's this, like, secret life that we're all existing in, and it never makes the transition, right? All of this, like, crazy shit that we're all existing in over here never makes the transition into what's called the mainstream anymore. And there's like a line that has been officially decided upon, right? Might as well be might as well be the Eucharist, just have a cross, and this is okay, and this is okay, but never the two shall meet. And the multiverse shit makes it really obvious. Like, if you go back and watch Star Trek The Next Generation, like, one of the big things that Star Trek The Next Generation was really pushing was we should like sex. that sex should be good. Like, they could go to, like, the crew of the Starship Enterprise would go to Risa, which is essentially like a fuck planet. You're given, like, you can have like a little totem, and that tells people around you, hey, come fuck me. And then people will approach you and be like, hey, you want to fuck? Like, that's the ethos of Star Trek The Next Generation. This idea that, like, in the future, when we're an advanced species, where we have a more evolved way of looking at the world and an ethos and an ethic that we actually believe in and follow, we'll also like sex and have it a lot. Right? But our media is, like, so hyper repressive. Like, you can play a video game where you can watch somebody literally rip someone's eyeballs out and then eat them. In the same move, like, take out their spine and then disembowel them, and you can see it all happen with, like, X-ray vision and all that kind of stuff. But if in the background there's a portrait of a person who has their nipple out, of a woman that has their nipple out, oh my God, it's a crisis. Like, it's so, we're such a juvenile culture, and the multiverse stuff makes it really obvious. Because if I was writing a script that was about, like, multiverse travel, right? One of the very first things that I would write would be like, and then they go to a planet where people are okay with sex. And, like, the character sees a pair of boobs on the street. And it's like, whoa, boobs on the street, oh my God. But everybody else in the world is like, yeah. Like, but we're so hyper repressed as a people, like, hyper repressed, that even the idea of writing such a script is considered perverse. That if you were to actually say, like, hey, how about we do a script where they go to a planet and everyone is just fine with, like, sex is, like, normal. Like, it's not, the hyper repression just isn't there. Right? Oh, well, okay, this isn't smut, bud. Get out of here. That's what would happen. For sure. Right? For sure. And, like, Rick and Morty will be like, whoa, let's go to Boob World. But Boob World is like the internet, right? It's a reinforcement of the hyper-repressive nature of our culture and our society. That sexuality is something that's dirty and dingy and shouldn't be observed and needs to be off in the corner, even though we all do it. Like, that's who we are. I think it's fucking weird as shit. I think it's the weirdest fucking thing that we do. That we've literally introduced into the consciousness of the society the idea that there are infinite universes, you can go anywhere, do anything, experience anything you like, and literally no one is like, what if there was a universe where people had sex and it was fine, and nobody was upset about it? We can't even imagine it. And to even say it out loud or conceptualize it, people are like, man, this guy's a real perv. What a pervert this guy is. Sure, bud. Okay. Like, if that's what you need to do to maintain your hyper repressiveness, right? If that's how you maintain your, like, weird little clutched down view of human sexuality, sure. Knock yourself out. But, like, we all know for a fact that if we had a portal gun, we know exactly where we're going. Right? If you had a portal gun and you could open up a portal to any universe that exists in the universe, which one are you going to? Really weird, right? Really weird that we just refuse to tell these stories and we refuse to acknowledge that, yeah, we absolutely would. Are you fucking kidding me? If there was a universe you could shoot a gun, you could walk through that door, and everybody would be like, hey, how you doing? Tits out, didn't matter, everything's completely fine. You'd go, and you'd go in a second. You wouldn't even think about it. But if you want to watch Sub-Zero decapitate, like, Liu Kang and watch the blood spurt all over the place, and if you want to take a gun and, like, gun down Iraqi civilians while they beg for their lives, here, $40, please. That's fucking normal. That's normal as shit. That's little kid stuff, right? Yeah, my kitty's over there playing Doom, and he's like disemboweling demons and taking out a horn and jamming it into his eye and like covering himself in blood and goes. That's normal kid stuff, right? Santora, how you doing, bud? It already happened, sort of, when Zelensky came to America and gave him a U.S. flag to sign. There was not a swastika on the flag. Are you serious? Dude, I'm going to need to see a picture of that. I think I'd want to be a ball of energy and not have a body. I like the way you think, Ray. I like the way you think. You're just going to straight up turn into Dr. Manhattan. Like, you're just going to be like, these humans tire me. I find their lives to be small and tedious. I think maybe I'll go to Mars. Spend some time alone there. Centaura, good to see you, bud. You're catching me in a very weird mood, bud. Like, weird. Weird is the word to describe what I'm going through right now. Whoop. I know, buddy. I know. What a weird world we're living in, eh? What a weird and strange world and a strange existence. We're all having a good time. Snuggle buddy. Snuggle buddy. Jordan Peterson uploaded a document with screenshots of the complaints made against him to the College of Psychologists. You know what? Like, this is the tweet. So somebody says some normal stuff, right? We're already overpopulating. Any arguments are here for the sport, blah, blah, blah. Peterson says, you're free to leave at any point. Like, it's Twitter, so whatever, right? Who actually gives a shit? But he's also like a clinical psychologist, right? He's a professional who has a job as a professional. Eggs cost more than milk. We're all insane. Weird's welcome. It's friendly. Very good. Yeah, like, who makes the rules? Who makes these rules? Like, I just feel like we're all blowing up. I just cannot wait until Peterson is gone. Like, I can't wait for it. Like, the reason why I haven't really been that interested to go through this is because, like, Peterson is going to be irrelevant the moment he dies. Right? Like, there's going to be another one that pops up and tries to take the Peterson energy and it tries to become the next Peterson. But, like, he's essentially a fraud and a huckster, and he always has been. And, like, I understand why he's popular from the, like, hey, buck up kind of perspective. But, like, this kind of shit should absolutely convince you. Right? Like, he's, it argues JP is undermining his profession by pontificating on areas well outside his areas of competence. Yeah, for a guy who keeps talking about competence so much, he sure likes to talk about things that he knows nothing about. You know, that's the best part. That's the thing that I think kills me the most about this guy, is, like, who gives a shit what he thinks about most of this stuff? Right? He doesn't know anything. He's not a scholar. Like, it's because we're such a fucking illiterate people that, like, I trust this guy, and so when he says this thing he knows nothing about. Milo, dude, you've eaten, you've had treats, you're completely fine. Don't just sit there and whine, okay, buddy? Don't just sit there and whine. I really dislike it when you whine. I don't like it very much. It's the one thing you do that I don't care for, buddy. The rest of the time, you're completely lovely. Like, Peterson at this point, like, I mean, I think this is true of Shapiro and Crowder as well, but, like, they're like poison. Like, if they're touching something, I'm like, nah, I'm not interested. Like, I'm just not, I'm like, okay. Like, when Peterson first broke into the mainstream, I found him to be kind of, like, his whole, like, hey, buck up, buddy, and, like, you know, bootstrap and all that kind of stuff. I found it to be, like, all right. But, like, but as time has gone forward, it's like, oh, this bro is just straight up a grifter. Like, he's straight up grifting us. And telling us he's doing it while he's doing it. How you doing, buddy? How you doing? Oh, don't start that up, buddy. Don't start that up. Come on, I know you're bullshitting. I know you're bullshitting. Don't start that up. I know, you're a little tub. Okay, buddy. There you go. So, hold on. All tomorrow. What's all tomorrow? Somebody said something. I feel like I ignored it or I missed it. Oh, well. Oh, well. So, yeah, Jordan, look, the bottom line on this is he's always done questionable shit. People have complained about it, right? And he doxed them. Like, that's the end of the conversation, if you ask me. Like, I no longer care what your opinion is about what he says any longer. The guy is doxing people in order to have some of his kooky, weird followers, which he definitely has, harass people. Like, that's obviously happening. And if you don't think that that's weird or creepy, then I think you're weird and creepy. Oh, I know, buddy. There's dogs barking. There's dogs barking. And you want to bark back. I know, buddy. I know. Life's so tough for a little pug. Life's so tough for a little pug. China's average annual growth of GDP in the past 3 years outperforms the world. Yeah, not surprising. Turns out, crazy thought, guys, if you invest in your public and your populace and you actually give them wealth, it creates prosperity. Who knew? Who knew that the way to create prosperity would be to create prosperity? What a strange idea. That, wait a minute, I thought that extracting wealth out of the public in order to ship it offshore and then buy an island to have Jeffrey Epstein kidnap girls so that you can have sex on Jeffrey Epstein's pedophile island. I thought that that was the best way to build a civil society, right? The United States is even below the world average. Like, I had one. Where is it? Somebody really pointed out recently that, I think it might be in the memes. Yeah. Only 13% of the world backs the new Cold War. Right? Like, when you put it in this kind of perspective, when you point out that the Western powers only really represent 13% of the world's population, and that the rest of the world is like very much against this idea, and you put it in terms of a percentage where it's like 87% of the world is essentially saying, we would like to move on and do something else, please. Right? Like, we would like to try something else now. And you see, like, it's this isolation that's coming for the West. This incredible isolation that's happening. And in the midst of this, I think that this is just useful. Benefited from the EU. Right? Which country thinks they benefited from the EU? I think this is actually useful to look at. Because it does show you, generally, that people in Europe are like, okay, if we're going to go down, we're all going to go down together. If this ship's going to sink, we're all going to sink together. And there's something lovely about that, if you ask me. Because Europe has a pretty long history of war with itself. It's a pretty long history of, like, you know, Germany invading France and France fighting Spain and Britain and all of this, right? Pretty long history of this. And it's good to see, though, that the people are like, no, this idea that we're like a federated body all working together towards a common goal has been good. And that's nice. That's nice. They're still going to get completely ramrodded, like completely fucked over by countries that are actually attempting to step into the next iteration of what the world is going to look like, right? Like, I actually genuinely think that in 40 years from now, so like when I'm 80, this world is going to be radically different. And it's going to have to be, like, radically different. And the thing is that the West is no longer going to be the one defining what the world looks like any longer. Because the West no longer represents the power center. And it no longer represents the cultural power center. That literally we're going into this, like, empire collapse. And we're going to become very isolated. And we're going to make a series of very bad decisions for ourselves. And while we're making these extremely bad decisions for ourselves, the rest of the world is going to move on. Like, the rest of the world is going to move on and is going to start making decisions for itself. And we'll start seeing, like, think about Libya's, like, think about Gaddafi's Libya. But now, right? Like, imagine there was a country in Africa right now that had overthrown its monarchy, that had instituted a bunch of socialist programs, except now China's moving a rail line in there, and China's offering support. That's a very different world that you're going to look at. So, like, NATO can't just roll in and start dropping bombs and, like, execute people. They just will be less able and less capable of doing it generally. And I remember seeing this picture and just being kind of gobsmacked, just having it was like a little ping in my brain of just like, oh shit, yeah, like, we are going to get extremely isolated, and it's going to happen almost immediately. That, like, the rest of the world is just, like, as soon as they can get rid of us, we're gone. And they're only going to think about us in terms of how we're a military threat to them. That's the only time they'll ever think about us. And what's kind of amazing is that while it's happening, places like China are actually saying, like, hey, America, like, can you, like, normalize yourself? Can you, like, normalize your relations with the rest of the world? And that's sort of the shameful part. Yeah, China is doing all the investments in developing nations, absolutely, because they're not, like, going in and stealing resources. Like, it's so comical to me that America is trying to pretend as though China's trade with other nations is somehow sinister, when literally the way we interact with the world is by going in, blowing up the place, and stealing as much shit as possible while funding literal Nazis. Like, that's who we are. We find the worst possible elements in the society and give them a bunch of weapons and training. We do it over and over and over and over again. And yet we look at another country that's, like, building rail and making a trade agreement, and we're like, that's bad somehow. But those are freedom bombs, so they're good. We're going in there, we're going to liberate those people. We're going to send them all the liberation they can possibly handle by dropping all the freedom bombs, and then they'll have all the freedom they can have, and then they can freely trade with America by giving us all our resources at the barrel of a gun. America's the greatest country in the world, and if you think otherwise, then you are unpatriotic, and you need to move to another country. You need to go to one of those communist nations you keep talking so much about, even though you don't speak the language, and no, we're not going to help you move. Man. What a dumb place. Like, what a dumb place. Dude, I don't know why I did this. I was talking about this on the Discord after it happened, but as I'm getting farther away from it, I'm just like, dude, that was so dumb. I, like, literally was just, like, scrolling TikTok while I was waiting for a video game to load. Just, like, waiting for a video game to load, and I'm, like, scrolling TikTok, and one of the live streams pop up, And he's doing the thing that I do, where it's like saying, like, this is my position, like, come in and listen. The guy says he's anti-communist. And so I immediately am like, oh, I got to talk to this guy, right? I got to talk to this guy. Because if you're saying you're anti-communist, and my interaction with this guy really convinced me, you're not anti-communist. You're fascist. Like, if you're saying that you're anti-communist, the only reason you're saying that you're anti-communist is because you know that if you say fascist, you'll get chased out of the civil discourse. People won't take you seriously. But you can say you're anti-communist and people will be like, oh, okay. Oh, I think that might be a serious position, when in reality it's just fascism. So I say to the guy, hey, do you actually want to talk to a real communist? My name is the Canadian Commie, even on TikTok. Well, on TikTok it's actually D-A Canadian Commie, because it was short by one. And I was like, ugh. Anyway. And so I get talking with the guy, and the first thing I like to ask these guys is, how much do you believe your media? Scale from 1 to 10. How much do you believe your media? The guy says 6, and then says, no, 5. So, like, his gut was 6, and then he heard it and thought to himself, 6 is too high, I'm going to change it to 5. So I was like, okay, here's a guy who's... And then I said to him, and it was a real learning experience for me, because I can't just say that you're gullible, right? That's not good enough. That's not conversational. That's not friendly. But I said, look, I think you're an and then I asked him why he's anti-communist, and he just did all the normal anti-communist talking points, right? All the just normal dumb shit that we hear all the time. And then I just said to him, like, I just think that you have been taken in by a media system that is designed to deceive you. And real case in point, because he had mentioned Mao's Great Leap Forward, and we've gone through the famine, Great Leap Forward, and shown how that's a fraudulent narrative, and I started talking about it. And then he stopped me, and I can't believe this is so dumb that, like, I'm like, there's no evidence of it. It didn't happen. There's no photographs. There's nobody talking about it. It literally is something that didn't occur. And then he says, and he was polite enough, I suppose, but he says, well, then why, right during that period of time, were the Americans offering foreign aid? I was like, who cares what the Americans were offering? Are you familiar with the concept of a color revolution? That people will offer foreign aid in order to overthrow nations. And then he just goes, well, yeah, I know I support a color revolution of China. And then I just said, oh, so you're just a fascist. And then he started crying and banned me because I insulted him. I called him names because he casually called for the overthrow of a foreign government. And I was just like... And my big takeaway of this is, like, these guys are literally calling for extreme acts of terrorism, massive state-sponsored violence, including color revolutions and coups. But if you call them a fascist, they cry about it. That's what we're dealing with here. Like, you can casually call for, like, the extermination of a people and the dismantling of their nation, while simultaneously I'm insulted if you call me a fascist. Like, what the fuck is happening in the world? What the fuck is happening? Man, we could use some Chinese. Yeah, we could use some Chinese investments here in Nova Scotia, here in Canada generally. Yeah, we could use some Chinese investments for sure. Dee Marie, this weekend I drank a whole bottle of wine, small bottle, and texted an ex that Xi Jinping was my daddy. Marie, that's hilarious. Marie, that's actually hilarious, man. You're texting your ex that Xi Jinping was your daddy. Take that, former ex. Marie's got a new daddy now. Absolutely. Yeah, it would be especially nice onto our power grid here, for sure. Something to stabilize it. This is kind of how it feels like. You deserve higher wages and to work less hours. How dare you? Like, bruh. Alright. I feel like I'm being very loose tonight. Let's actually report on some stuff. Greenbelt is Ontario's jurisdiction, Ford says, after federal minister raises concerns. Right? I'm glad to see that the federal government is actually being like, maybe we shouldn't be clear-cutting forests and environmental protection areas right now. Maybe it's a bad idea to actually, like, blow up the very thing we need to avoid environmental catastrophe at the moment. This is one I actually wanted to read. And I think I'm going to. Justin Trudeau loves outsourcing government work to neoliberal cutthroats. Justin Trudeau's Liberal government has outsourced billions of dollars worth of contracts, including $100 million to McKinsey. Instead of shoveling money into the private sector, the Liberals could make the novel choice of investing in state capacity. John, don't you know? Trudeau's a communist. That's why he keeps privatizing everything. You would think that a G7 country of over 38.6 million people with a public service boasting 335,957 employees could manage to govern itself without constantly turning to the corporate consultant class. In Canada's case, you'd be wrong. CBC Radio Canada broke the story earlier this month on the government's $100 million in contracts to McKinsey and Company since Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party came to power in 2015. A parliamentary committee is now looking into the matter. The committee is calling over a half dozen cabinet ministers, as well as the company's former global managing director, Dominic Barton, who was Trudeau's ambassador to China from 2019 to 2021. Barton also co-chaired former Finance Minister Bill Morneau's Advisory Council on Economic Growth. Pro-market spin merchants. Beyond the fawning headlines and corporate news pages, McKinsey & Co. is notorious. In When McKinsey Comes to Town, Walt Bogdanich and Michael Forsyth lay out in detail the company's sketchy history, as Michael Bobelian, how's that for a last name? Michael Bobelian puts in his review of the book. The authors expose the firm's unsavory work with fossil fuel companies, cigarette makers, opioid distributors, regulatory agencies, and autocratic regimes. Bogdanich and Forsyth pierce through McKinsey's culture of secrecy, a process they describe as akin to chasing shadows, to unearth conflicts of interest, corruption, hypocrisy, and strategic blunders that read like a prosecutor's indictment. With its work for Purdue Pharmaceuticals, the company allegedly played a role in bringing about the opioid epidemic. In 2021, it settled a lawsuit for nearly $600 million for its part in helping the disgraced company turbocharge opioid sales. McKinsey was also in the news in Canada a few years back when it came to light that it had advised grocery giant Loblaws while the latter was fixing the price of bread for over a decade. The scandal was made all the more intriguing by the fact that when McKinsey was advising Loblaws, U.S. presidential contender Pete Buttigieg, now Secretary of Transportation, was in the middle of his postgraduate school private sector tenure at the company. Canadian federal spending ranks in the hundreds of billions each year, of which outsourced contracts cost the state $14.6 billion in 2022. In a large, complex government, you'd expect some level of outsourcing. But under the Liberals, spending on external consultants has grown enormously. To be fair, the cost of public service has grown too, as Bill Curry and Mahima Singh write in the Globe and Mail. They note that some of the money that went to the controversial and confusing ArriveCan app, used by all travelers during the pandemic to submit customs declarations, hundreds of millions more went to the disastrous Phoenix Pay system, which has been the bane of many federal public service employees' existence for years. Indeed, the payroll system was so bad that some workers lost their homes. The Trudeau government loves to outsource state work, or prefers it at least to building in-house capacity. The practice seems to suggest a deep belief that outside experts know better how to design and deliver programming. Those outside experts happen to often view the world through a particular neoliberal and technocratic lens. Consequently, the practice of government outsourcing, beyond specific niche technological and field expert needs, amounts to constructing government as a neoliberal and technocratic venture. Governments should keep governance in-house. The issue isn't that the government requires some outside help, it's that it requires so much. That amount only seems to be growing, with contracts more than doubling since 2006. A further issue is that the government contracts with companies Canadians might prefer it not work with. Rather than growing its reliance on corporate consultancies, the federal government ought to grow the capacity of the public service such that it takes on more work in-house. It ought to encourage the growth of participatory democratic institutions at the grassroots level to develop policy and approaches to policy implementation and management. That money could be an investment in state capacity that would pay dividends in the long run, particularly as the complexities of government continue to grow. It is not outlandish to ask that the government perform its duties without seeking so much outside help. A move to rely less on outside consultants and more on state employees would also help the government resist over-relying on corporate types with their own vision of how the state ought to be run. Of course, this assumes that government wants to avoid corporate quasi-government, which may not be a fair assumption. But as a normative position, it's a cogent one. The elected government ought to be setting the direction of the country, and the professional, nonpartisan public service ought to be implementing policy and running programs. The more corporate fingers in the pie, the worse. After all, corporate interests rarely square with public interests. They are, in fact, often antithetical to one another. No more corporate consultants. Instead of courting corporate consultants, the Canadian government ought to invest in strengthening its anemic think tank capacity. Outside perspectives on governance can be valuable, and having spaces dedicated to generating, developing, and sharing ideas can provide expertise and perspective. We shouldn't be too sanguine about the think tank culture, of course. There's always the risk of government crony culture, corporate infiltration, and laundering ideas. Still, it's a good deal better than seeking the wisdom of corporate consultants. Not all technocratic knowledge is in human bead counting. Think tanks populated by experts whose interest is the good of the public can yield positive results, but it is crucial that their role is secondary to functional governance. Governance that is engaged deeply with citizenry, that operates within a broad culture of grassroots participatory democracy. In 2016, the Trudeau government promised to cut spending on consultants and contractors. That obviously didn't happen. Indeed, it went the other way entirely. Over the weeks and months to come, as the Government Operations and Estimates Committee digs into the McKinsey spending, we'll learn more about Ottawa's unjustifiable reliance on consultants. The investigation should not stop there. It should go deeper into the practice of outsourcing and encourage a national conversation about reforming the practice once and for all. I think this guy's going real soft, honestly. Like, I think that he's like, yeah, no more corporate consultants, but like think tanks, think tanks are good, and we should have think tanks. I'm like, these people are fucking psychos. Like, the Fraser Institute is loaded with people who are like, we should dismantle the government and starve the poor. If they don't like it, the MAID program. Like, these think tanks, like PragerU, right? Super useful. Like, we should be actively going after these places that are spreading overt, obvious, crazed lies into the society. Ugh. Yeah, how much did McKinsey and Co. give to the liberals in donations? Yeah, watch where Trudeau ends up. Right? Like, this is the thing. Like, people often say this to me, that it's like, oh, John, this is all very conspiratorial, and there's no, like, suitcase of money or anything like this. I'm like, no, of course not. These people will go become a corporate consultant. That's how it works. Justin Trudeau will go and work for these people. Like, he's going to go sit on a board of directors somewhere, earning 6-figure salary, doing nothing. Right? These people, like, these politicians are easy to buy. It's cheap. They're not expensive. Right? Like, it doesn't take, like, you got to take $100 million and put $100 million into, oh my God. And it's like, no. Like, $100,000 does it. Like, these people are cheap. They have no morals. They're easy to buy. It's easy to convince them to sell out the entire country. Like, it doesn't require that much money. Even if it was like $1 million. So fucking what? Like, it's almost nothing to the ownership class. And that to me is what's so pathetic about our politicians. Is it's not that they are corruptible, it's how cheap they can be corrupted for. Like, Trudeau's not getting a suitcase of like $10 million even. So he's probably getting paid like $200,000. Like, just a cheap loser wearing like a fucking fancy suit. Yeah. People try to sell us nuclear info for tens of thousands. It's happened a couple past. Corruption is cheap. Yeah. It seems to be the way. Meanwhile, Singh is meeting with Trudeau about private healthcare ahead of sit-down with premiers. Yeah, here in Ontario, they're privatizing the healthcare system. So, I'm glad to see that Jagmeet Singh is even mentioning it. Right? Even talking about it. Probably because his own base is like, excuse me? Like, anyway, you guys know my position on the NDP, dude. They got to get rid of this guy. Like, white Canadians are not going to vote for Jagmeet Singh. It really is that simple. Like, if Jagmeet Singh's name was Jason Singer, and he was just like some white kid, like, I think people would be like, oh, wow. But he's not. Like, and honestly, if he was like a brown dude with a big beard, I think people would be like, oh, okay. It's the turban. It's too much for Canadians. It just fritzes their brain out. They just can't do it. Right? They just can't handle it. Chonk. Good name, bud. I hope the comment lives up to it. Canada, you're going to make a huge mistake for letting America privatize healthcare system take root. You're absolutely right, bud. You're absolutely right. It is a huge, massive mistake. Like, I mean, it's a mistake for the populace. It's not a mistake for the ruling class. Like, they know exactly what they're doing, and they're happy to do it. Like, they don't care about anything. Like, these people are psychos, and they're just going to keep acting this way until we finally put 2 and 2 together and actually do something that has any value whatsoever. Like, we're getting to a point now where, like, it is only, like, you can see it happening in France. Like, France, they're actually doing the thing that needs to be done. Because this is how you do it, right? Like, if you're not willing to withhold your labor, if you're not willing to starve the beast, then why shouldn't the wealthy pilfer you? Right? Like, if I walked up to a person or I shouldn't say if it was possible to just walk up to a person, reach into their pocket, and take all their money out of their pocket, and all they would do is stand there and go, oh. Like, and like, you'd call the police, and the police would look at the guy stealing the pocket and then punch you. What kind of society do you think you'd have? Right? Like, what do you think you'd actually encourage there? That if walking up to people and just stealing money out of their pocket was protected by the police, what kind of society do you think you'd live in? And that's basically what it is, right? Except a little bit worse, because as Cotton points out, people in Canada are dying. Yeah. Like and the care is going to diminish significantly because that's how it works. And like the whole system is just going to get, like, conservatives are looking at the American healthcare system thinking to themselves, how do we get some of that? Like, these people are parasites. The leader of the Conservative Party is a landlord who's never had a job in his life. Like, literally, he graduated from university and has just been an MP the whole time. Worked under Stephen Harper, right? And, like, he's never had a job. He owns properties. He is a landlord. That's it. He's like the definition of a scuzzy parasite. And he's the leader of the Conservative Party, which incidentally is leading in the polls. So it's just like we're very what's the word that I'm looking for Canadians? We're very dumb. We're very, very dumb. Yep. Same as Doug Ford. Good to see you, Tinker. Good to see you, bud. Oh. You know what, guys? I really do hate to do this, but I'm tired. I'm really, really tired. I'm going to call it early tonight. Oh. I feel bad about it. I don't like that. I don't like that, man, because I feel like I don't want you guys to feel like I'm taking you for granted, you know? I just don't want you guys to feel like I'm taking you for granted. Like, I really value you guys, and you guys really matter to me, you know? But, like, I feel like I'm just getting shit kicked right now. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Always remember, each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you'll never realize it. You'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Revolt. Rebel. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.